This is a KTW News.
Stop killing us. Stop murdering us.
It just makes everybody just more and more fed up.
There's nothing new for them, and we're tired of it.
I fear for my sons when they go home, or when they go to the store and they go to school. I fear for them. I fear for myself.
Why do we have to prove our humanity to someone? We can think, we can talk, we can act the same as you. We put on our drawers the same as the next person. So I don't understand why we're not being seen as that. Why we have to fight so hard to be seen as that. It's not fair.
You know, those were just some of the powerful things we've heard this week from people of color here in Portland. And tonight, thousands of people continue to protest over the death of George Floyd. This is a live look at the protesters in southeast Portland now, and you can see they're marching towards downtown. There are several planned demonstrations happening tonight as people come together all over the metro area and call for change. And you know, at KGW, we've pledged to listen, and to elevate voices from the African American community in our coverage. And we're going to focus on what needs to change and how we can get there. We're going to do that, a part of that here tonight at 7 o'clock. We're talking with leaders like Dr. Shon Neyland, the senior pastor at Highland Christian Center. He's also written 4 books. His latest one is called The Courage to Stand, A New America, which explores racial and religious stereotypes in our society. So, Dr. Neyland, first, let's start with just your thoughts just about everything that's happened, you know, across the country over the last week.
Yes, it has been a very traumatic experience to watch and to witness America go through such a series of events. I believe that the unrest, the racial, systematic system that we are accustomed to has to stop. And what I see is the outcry of so many who are saying simply, we want justice. We want those who have committed a crime to be held accountable.
For people at home watching right now, you know, what guidance, you know, do you have for them, for people that want to change things peacefully?
Yes. And I believe that most of the people want to change things peacefully. They want to see change in our community, but it takes action. I think the protests are good and they bring about attention that our nation needs. We needed to see this moment. Unfortunately, it was the demise of a human life. It was the demise of Mr. Ahmaud, for instance, who was shot and killed while jogging in Georgia. And as you know, that same situation, there always appears, now I shouldn't say always, many times, there appears to be the cover-up with law enforcement. So I would say to the people, hang in there, don't give up. Don't turn to violence. Keep your head about you. Keep speaking out.
Is there anything else you want to leave us with on how you believe, you know, the community can move forward?
Yes, I believe that, and thank you for your time and thank you for your question. I believe that we need to take ownership, all of us, from me to you to everyone in the community. And that ownership means that we must acknowledge, if you and I have perpetuated this idea of us versus them, that I am superior and you are inferior. So I challenge all of our listeners to examine ourselves and ensure that we're not using language that is hurtful, contrary. We're not pointing to a person who looks different than us and saying, see that person over there? That's a bad person. It begins with us making the change, to come together, to be one, to be unified, to trust your fellow man, judge them by their character and not by the color of their skin.
And thank you, Dr. Neyland, for your time and for just sharing your perspective with us. And as we continue our conversation about race, we know the individual experience is just as complex and varied as the people who make up our country. Brittany Falkers spoke with a local union leader and native Portlander to get her perspective and advice for moving forward.
Full disclosure, I'm coming to you today to speak my truth, my walk in this life, this journey. I am one woman who stands at the intersection of race and gender and the union movement.
Donna Hammond is a union leader with the International Brotherhood of Electric Workers, one of the first women accepted into their apprenticeship program back in 1978. Born and raised in Portland, her journey was slowed by racial roadblocks. She succeeded by finding allies. Her perspective offers a glimpse into the pain and anger spilling out on streets across America after the death of another Black man in police custody.
It's like another dig. It's what we know. This is our normal. Now you all, or the majority, you get to see what we see every day because we have a video camera.
In 1964, a young Donna was part of busing in Portland, an effort to reduce racial segregation in schools.
I had developed friendships that I still have today from elementary school. But counter to that, I learned that there were people who didn't want me, didn't want to see me successful, didn't want me to be there, and did all kinds of things so that, I heard as a kid, you need to go home. Don't come out here. Don't. One day I experienced, specifically, because they used to rock the bus. They used to call us the N-word. And one day when they were attacking us, and at the end of the day, a raw egg came in the window and landed on me, on my chest. And it was just devastating.
That experience helped guide her when she entered the electrician trade as an adult.
I don't think that I could have survived a 4-year apprenticeship in Portland, Oregon, or anywhere in a white male-dominated profession had I not experienced the racism and the torture that I went through as a kid. So there were those men who wanted to take me off the planet, and I was set up to get killed a couple times that I know of. But then there, counter that, and just like what happened at the elementary school, there were families who supported me, and I'm kind of going back and forth. But on the job, there were white men, my brothers, who said, we're going to make you the best electrician that you can be. I always had allies.
And now, she says those types of allies are more important than ever.
I want them to listen. If they're in if they are in the majority class, majority population, be silent and listen to folks when they tell their story. Don't try to one up and say, well, this is what happened to me. And, it's like, that's not what this is about. Learn how to be an ally.
Brittany Falkers, KGW News.
And thank you, Brittany. Still to come, we're continuing the conversation. And up next, we're going to discuss how you can talk to your kids about racism and what's going on in the world. And we want to take another live look at the protests happening right now in Portland. So this is the 5th night of protests here over the death of George Floyd. Now, police say this is a peaceful march, just like last night's was a majority peaceful march. They are asking, though, the drivers be careful in this area. The group is on Burnside right now, headed west to downtown. We'll be right back. And welcome back to a community conversation here at 7 o'clock on KGW. We're going to start now with another live look at the protests happening now in Portland. Police say this has been a peaceful protest, but just take a look at the Burnside Bridge here and you can get an idea of just how many people right now are crossing that bridge. Police say they started at Revolution Hall, and we're hearing that they're going to reconvene. They're going to meet back up at the courthouse square, at Pioneer Courthouse Square. And you can see there's thousands, it appears to be thousands of people marching there. And this, again, is our 5th night of protests here in Portland.
As I thought about my remarks this morning, all I could see were my children, my 8-year-old son and my 11-year-old daughter, and the wondering of what does all of this look like through their eyes. I see their beauty and innocence, their intellect and brilliance, and I wonder how and when the world will snatch that away from them. And then my head begins to spin. I'm not just a mom, I've devoted my life and career to children, and I'm always palpably aware of their presence. I know they are watching what we do and what we don't do.
Just powerful words there from Kali Thorne-Ladd, an event put on by Mayor Wheeler on Saturday. She was talking about her own children, but she has a lot of kids on her mind right now. She's the executive director of Kairos PDX Learning Academy. Now, it's a public charter school, and their mission is closing opportunity and achievement gaps for children of color. And they do that in part by teaching a curriculum that emphasizes their culture and identity. I talked with her today about how we can teach this to all of our kids.
How do you suggest, or do you have any advice for parents right now watching who want to talk to their kids, about race? What would you say to them?
Well, wow. I cannot say I can advise all parents on how to talk to your children about race. I think it's important to talk to your children about race. I think there is a fear. Children notice difference, but they are not born racist. And so acknowledging differences, I think sometimes there is a tendency to not want to talk about it, thinking, I don't see color, but every group of people, no matter what race they are, brings something powerful and important to the world. And so denying my Blackness or anybody's race or ethnicity is denying who they are. So I think acknowledging racial differences, I tend to really think it's important to come at an asset-based frame, particularly for young children. So not focusing on just the negative impacts of racism, but focusing on the histories and contributions of people of color from the beginning of the founding of this country. And, I do think it means truth-telling about history and recognizing and calling out the wrongs that were done. And quite frankly, I think for most people of color, there has been a lot of magnanimous posture to forgive and to move forward despite the terrorism and genocide and really terrible things that have happened, I think, to every group of color in this country. I think we can recognize that as a strength in terms of the people of color living through it and contributing and not holding on to it as a place of hatred, but moving beyond it to build coalition and contribute meaningfully to the community. But I think it really differs by age level. And for young children, it's just being affirming and helping them see the beauty of difference and answering questions and being honest. Children want to connect with one another. They're not born to have tension between each other.
I know it's so hard to answer this, but I think it's important to talk about this. How do we ultimately come together and move forward as a community?
Wow. I think we need to listen to one another. We need to build relationship with one another. We need to examine the practices that perpetuate inequity. And at the policy level, at the investment level, we can't do business as usual. There has to be a willingness to change, a recognition of how we've let down communities, and not just talk, but, truly recognizing and taking action that exemplifies that recognition. And then I think, I said in my talk before, and I would say again, I think we fear what we don't know. And the more we can build relationship with one another, and we begin to bridge differences, and we begin to build community. I think everybody wants to heal, but it's hard to do that when, I don't know, there's false promises being made, and people aren't authentically engaging in true healing. I often look at what happened. I had the opportunity and privilege of living in South Africa for a couple of years, and right after apartheid ended, South Africa has a lot of issues still. But there was an opportunity that Mandela provided for healing. And I think if we have that space to listen to one another and then move forward with true change, I think we begin to be a stronger Portland and a stronger community. And I will say, I think that many people want that. I think there's a question of how. Mm-hmm. And so, talking to people in community, on the ground, working with community, there are many Black own and run organizations, and there are many other culturally specific organizations that are connected with community, know community, and bring value and expertise and wisdom that I think all of us can benefit from. And so I'm optimistic as long as we have open minds and open hearts and a readiness to change. And the one thing I will add, a friend of mine mentioned to me how we have to be comfortable with sometimes being uncomfortable. Like that, we avoid discomfort at the cost of perpetuating inequity and racism, and that doesn't help us at all. So I think being okay with this isn't going to feel good for a little bit, but we're going to get out the other side in a better place.
And thank you, Kali, for talking with us and sharing some of your thoughts. And as we head to break, we want to take another live look at the massive protests happening in Portland right now. You can see all of those people, thousands of people, laying down on the Burnside Bridge right here in Portland. We'll be right back.
I still wonder whether I'm going to die when I see a police car behind me.
That's Oregon State Senator Lew Fredrick sharing his experience as a Black man in Oregon, and specifically his experience with police. We've heard similar encounters echoed around the country by people of color as they protest police brutality. Senator Fredrick says this has been going on for a long time in Oregon.
It has been about 5 years since I was stopped in front of my house and asked if I was lost in Irvington, where I've lived since 1977. I had a King City police officer pull a gun on me while I was in a Channel 8 news car back in the early 90s. And I was a passenger, so the photographer, who was the driver, suddenly saw the barrel of a gun right across his face pointed at me.
Senator Fredrick marched with Dr. Martin Luther King as a teenager. He says since then some things have changed, but some things have not. He wants to see action. He says system-wide change goes beyond getting rid of a few bad apples among police officers. And there are thousands of people protesting peacefully here in Portland, and you can see them laying down now on the Burnside Bridge. This is the 5th night of protests here in Portland, and it's peaceful. You can see right there from our live camera, thousands of people there laying down on the Burnside Bridge. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We want to leave you tonight with another live look at the protests here in Portland. So this group of thousands, they marched tonight from Revolution Hall, and they're now on the Burnside Bridge. You can see them there. They're all laying down on the Burnside Bridge. And we believe once they get up, they're going to march through downtown to Pioneer Courthouse Square. Police say this has been a peaceful march tonight, much like last night. They're asking drivers to be careful in the area, and we will follow these developments if any happen throughout the night or if they stay peaceful on air and online. Be sure to tune in tonight at KGW News at 11. Thank you so much for joining us for a conversation here on KGW.